Hello everyone from Tony the Scarab Ghost. I'm here today with Tommaso Di Bartolo. I have the fantastic interview. Hello, Tommaso.
Anthony, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
And for me, it's a bit an emotional moment, this interview, because as you will discover during the interview, Tommaso is the person that made me start my blog 6 years ago. So since I made the bird my blog 1 month ago, I really wanted to reconnect with him. It's like 6 years that even we don't speak in a conversation each other. So it's like a magical moment for me. So I'm happy to be here with you, Tommaso, and yeah, for the people that don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself a bit?
Anthony, first of all, I'm super humbled to reconnect, right? And the fact that you announced that this is a special moment for you, it's a special moment also for me. In our activities, roughly 6 years ago, when we met, right, in the progress of you building and learning how to start up, right? I vaguely remember that I might have dropped something like, content is important, right? Or maybe, sharing with others what you're doing is important. I'm glad to see that you follow the advice and that it makes you happy, because ultimately all we seek as human being is be happy in what you do, because as a reaction and a result of that, you'll be successful within and then outside of you, right? So about myself, real quick, I'm as most of you might have guessed based on my name, an Italian citizen who graduated then in Germany. I lived in Germany for almost 2 decades. I traveled through London on my quest and my adventure to seek the crazy land, the land of opportunity, which is then ultimately Silicon Valley. I moved here roughly now almost 12 years ago, and that's kind of on the geographical side of things, right? On the business side of things, I'm a typical Silicon Valley guy. I started in tech in 98, started then my first company roughly around the dot-com burst, 2000, 2001, and fast forwarded, I did 4 startups with 2 exits. Actually, for those, Anthony, who might follow me online, I just started my 5th startup after 6 years of
Wow.
being parked. Right, it's a metaverse that connects the physical world with the digital world, and takes basically the limitation of Web 2, the engagement limitation of Web 2, into a more immersive, into a more rewarding world. Anyhow, that's my 5th startup. That I'm creating right now. I'm part of UC Berkeley, where I teach entrepreneurship focused on the metaverse and Web3. I'm a 2 times author, and the most recent book being Navigating the Metaverse, which I'm humbled that Wiley published in May this year, which is within the top, let's call it 1 to 3 books globally about the metaverse. And I do invest in startups, and I'm part of a couple of startups in the metaverse. Yeah, that's about myself in a nutshell.
So it's cool because when we met each other, of course, I was already working in VR, you were in other fields, and now we reconnect here thanks to the metaverse. But why have you decided to enter this metaverse field with both a startup and a book, and where do you see its true potential?
So my entire life has never been an active decision, but more a result of curiosity, right? As an entrepreneur, what should lead you is curiosity. You should be always curious about things, because I believe very strongly, Anthony, that curiosity leads to execution, action, right? So you're curious for everything. You can reinvent anything, right? And then it takes you to action. And once you start executing, you start understanding if the thing that you are executing towards, if this is connecting with you, right? And that's what I call the moment of you discovering your talents, right? And so this is how it led me, in my now over 2 years, 20 years, 2 decades of being an entrepreneur, right? Through several topics, such as the topic that I had. My previous one was mobile. Before that was cloud computing, and it was security. And now basically the metaverse is the consequence of learning, right? I digged into the first time that I got involved into crypto was really in 2012, 2013, when I was doing my 3rd startup, actually through a partner of mine, a business partner of mine, who actually gave me a hint about this digital currency. And to be honest, I totally diminished that. I said, well, this doesn't sound kind of, very legit. Right? And then fast forwarded, I got invited to give a class at UC Berkeley about go-to-market in the space of blockchain. This was 2017. So I got more and more involved. So I stayed tuned on what's going on. I joined as a retail investor, obviously, in the alternative coins and the general, Bitcoin and Ethereum space, right? Which then matured me into early the 2020, digging into this immersive world, this worlds of ownership, this worlds of decentralization, right? And I started observing that this provides a new engagement level that is changing the human behavior, a new engagement level that is groundbreaking compared to what Web 2 could empower, right? And that's kind of in a nutshell, Anthony, how I got involved into, let's say, the world of metaverse and Web 3, right? I had with two peers of mine, I had the early suggestion to start writing a book with Kathy Hackel and Dirk Lut, which are my co-authors, and at the book called Navigating the Metaverse. Kathy Hackel, Anthony, known as the godmother of the metaverse, so coined by the market, right? And by the way, Anthony, I always used to joke with her because I say, as a Sicilian, I cannot say I'm the godfather of the metaverse because it doesn't sound right. Anyhow, that's about how I got into this.
Yeah, it's fun. I also love Kathy. I met her a few times at VR events. She's amazing. And I know about this book, but why don't you tell us what's inside the book? I mean, what are the greatest lessons that people can get from it?
Well, the subtitle of the book is A Guide to Limitless Possibilities in Web3, right? And you can imagine that, first of all, we introduce kind of the framework and the ecosystem of this Web3 world. Like we answer on one hand the question, well, how do I understand the Web3, right? What are the components of Web3? And I would say it's not a technical perspective, right? But it's almost a non-technical perspective. So really, people that are not in tech, but maybe in charge of, are either entrepreneurs or executives, right? Or managers that want to dig into this topic, right? It's a light way of you getting into, the ecosystem, then understanding how to start out, the importance and definition of why economy within the metaverse is fundamental. We dig into the topic of NFTs and the relation between NFT and the metaverse. Why NFTs and NFTs in the metaverse? I designed there a commercialization quadrant, which explains for the target audience how you should plan out a strategy when you are thinking on distributing or commercializing NFTs throughout the various distribution channels out there, right? We have a chapter in which we describe how to measure success in the metaverse, right? And in there specifically dig into the topic of the difference between advertisement and the future of advertisement, which I coined as joint value creation, JVC, which gives you basically an understanding of how to create value within the metaverse, right? So definitely a book that you don't need to be an engineer to understand it, right? But it guides you and it gives you a better perspective of these are the opportunities, this is what you could do, this is how you can start, right?
Yeah, and seems cool. And by the way, I will add the link to buy the book on Amazon in the description of the video so people can check it out and see if they like it. But I want to get some advice for free for our viewers. Like, you are an entrepreneur, you are an expert also in marketing. There are lots of people now entering the metaverse Web3 hype. How to create a company that can survive all the buzz, all the competition in the metaverse field?
From an entrepreneurial perspective, I would say that this is most probably the most exciting time that we have ever had. When I started my company after the .com burst, right, my first company, I always had a kind of this crying eye, Anthony, because I had missed as an entrepreneur. I was there in tech already because I started in 98, but not as an entrepreneur, right? So I kind of said, oh, shoot, I missed, this big wave, this initial wave, right? And which ultimately was not true because, 2 decades into it, I actually came to the very intriguing phase, which was the phase, post the hype, right? And so to entrepreneur, in what phase are we in? We are in a phase in which humankind is changing its behavior. Every time that we have friction and behavioral change, there are tons, immense opportunities, right? So step number one, stay curious. Don't say, I don't know, right? You always know based on what you dig in, based on what you read. So keep yourself active, right? And then start to understand one thing, that every time that you do a startup, Anthony, the main principle are always the same. It's number one is, what problem are you solving for whom? The way that you are then solving this problem is the what, right? The fact that we have now Web3 underlaying with ownership, with traceability, visibility, potentially unique digital assets. It's just the how you're doing it, right? So what problem are you solving? Why are you solving this problem is fundamental. So keep yourself curious, dear entrepreneurs, right? Start to understanding a fundamental problem, right? And then connect, obviously, with things that are more inclined to the most recent needs of humankind, which is what? We have been asking for traceability, we have been asking for visibility, we have been asking to co-create things, we have been asking that we were overwhelmed with informations, right? So we have been asking that, ads are broken because we don't want to be bombarded. So these are all signals that we as an entrepreneur need to understand. And then the question is, well, what throughout those signals can I solve, and then how can I solve it with Web3 technologies? Yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell, Anthony, what I would suggest to any of your listeners.
Yeah, and since many of my listeners are like me, come from the tech world, and we totally suck at marketing, to be honest, do you have also some advice on how to do marketing? There is a different way to market like a Web3 company from a traditional company. Do you have some piece of advice for us?
Yeah, I mean, the main and fundamental difference is that in Web 2, what we all were trying to achieve is to have followers, right? Actually, let me zoom out a second, Anthony, right? In Web 1, we were basically creating websites in order to invite people to visit your information in your product. And so this is when it started to say, visit our website, www.idontknow.com. Right. So, and then this actually then matured because we had more and more websites, right? And people were proactively seeking information and products, right? That the technology advancement with the mobile phones, right? And then the social media said, why do we make those people look for something? Why don't we give them information at the palm of their hands? And that's basically was enabled through the push notification that were pushed to your mobile phones. And that's when the social media started really becoming strong. As fundamental to the social media, we had the business model of the ads and the advertisement. So we went from www, visit our website, to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and so on, right? And then we started understanding that we were overwhelmed with information, that the way that we're creating ads, that it was broken because we did not really engage, right? And this moved then also together with not only with the needs, but with the technology advancement to a point that we are today, where Web3 with the blockchain, traceability, visibility, ownership allows us now to create immersive experiences. So instead of saying, visit our website or follow us on, the future will be experience us in, right? So an experience means that you will for the very first time, we will for the very first time, right, no longer be bombarded with outside in content, but we will be having immersive, dedicated experience that will touch upon all of our senses, not just our eyes, but eventually our smell, our kinetics, right? So that we can focus on what we are looking at, right? So that every content piece is actually an experience. It's an event, if you so want, right? And at the center of all this, we will be having an economy, a supply and demand of digital assets that are also unique, right? And this digital economy will surpass then the economy, the GDPR of every single country that we are seeing, because there is more opportunity to do the digital than in the physical world.
Yeah, that's cool. And I want to finish this topic of the metaverse asking you, what's Tommaso Di Bartolo's vision of the metaverse in like 10, 15 years from now?
So The vision, I have a very let's see here, clear vision, a very clear belief on where this entire metaverse realm is going. And by the way, I finalized that in my book. I finalized that in my course. Before I get into the vision, and speaking of the course, for those non-technical professionals who would like to actually learn more about the metaverse, on how to metaverse, what risks and what metaverses are out there, right? You can go on almameta.xyz, right, and sign up on a course, which is a course that I was asked to run outside UC Berkeley, so that everybody, as a non-technical professional, would have available. Maybe Anthony, if you want to add this to the show, if it's of value, right? Just dropping this in here, right? And there are three visions. If I reverse engineer my vision of the metaverse. So number one of the metaverse is that we, the humankind, within the next years will have and switch the entire educational system into an immersive way. And the reason for that is because the current educational system is broken. Not only is it expensive, right, and it's kind of exclusive, but it's also very fragmented, and no longer does it meet the needs of us, the humankind, learning with content, right? So the metaverse will allow, through its immersiveness, to create micro contents. Those micro contents we will be able to track, and for that we'll be able to give you micro certificates, right? So we will basically, the learning will be the way we live. Everything, every single book that we read, every podcast we do, every webinar that we do, every experience that we do, right, will have a certification that this grew and influenced our knowledge, right? That's number one. And as a result of that, because we will be taught in the metaverse, right? And by the way, the metaverse to me is all around us, right? Maybe I need to specify that too, because people say, oh, the metaverse, and they think maybe of games, right? That they are right now positioned. Games are the category of game in the blockchain. Whatever you're seeing right now, these are early pioneers that are serving gamers and early aficionados, and this is metaverse, or these are blockchain-based games. The future of the metaverse is when you will be able, through augmentation, have seamless integration into your real life, into places, people, and products. Whatever you see around you will be an access point to a digital realm, a digital environment that will reward you through tokenomics, which we call right now Web3. The moment that you have the real life seamless integrated with the digital realm, this is when the real metaverse, the mature metaverse, right, will be mainframe. And by the way, for those who are interested in this concept, you can check me out on Forbes, right? Especially right now, September, I'm releasing the next article exactly to talk about the three phases of the metaverse, from an early adopter to a mature phase, right? So number one is education in the metaverse and the vision. Number two, Anthony, is because we are learning in the metaverse, the consequence is that we will be working in the metaverse. We'll be having a larger workforce of producers, service providers, creators, developers in the metaverse than we have in real life, because we'll be having an immense amount of opportunities, given the fact that we now, for the very first time, can create digital asset that you can own. So an economy will be activated. And last but not least, because of this economy that is going to be activated, right, the GDPR, which is the gross domestic products in every single country, the physical goods, the supply and demand of the physical good, will be surpassed by the supply and demand of the metaverse, which I call the gross metaverse products, which is the supply and demand in the metaverse. This is my future back vision. Number one, education. Number two, workforce. And number three, GMP will surpass the GDP.
Oh, that's very cool. And now since the time is almost up, I'm curious because I want to tell you a bit how we had our encounter that led to a lot of different things in my life. So basically, I want to comment also on this story from your point of view. So basically, I was one of the participants of the European Innovation Academy in Turin, in Italy, in 2016. One of the few with a real company, because many were there just as a game to play as an entrepreneur. I had a startup that had some problems, had a very cool technical solution for full body virtual reality in 2015. So something was super tech, but we sucked totally at business, at marketing, etc. So this accelerator, the European Innovation Academy, was very cool for me to learn how to be an entrepreneur. And there were some moments we had some lessons, we had some exercises. There were some moments where we had 10 minutes with an expert to ask advice. There was an investor, another day there was another guy about business, and one day there was the marketing mentor was Tommaso Di Bartolo. And we went to him and said, yeah, we are very good technically, but we don't know how to promote our company. We don't know how to do marketing. And you asked us about some things about the virtual reality ecosystem, how things were working. It was still very niche. They were not super, we're still not influencers, this kind of stuff, etc. And so you asked us if there were experts in our fields. We said, yeah, a few, but still, it's still too new. And you told me this sentence like Master Yoda, if there are not experts in the field, you must be the expert. You told me this and said, you should open a blog or do something like that and become the expert. And then we part away. So we never saw each other again. But after the EIA finished, a few days later, I started creating a blog on WordPress.com, the free platform, because I was like, okay, no one will care about it, but let's try to follow the advice. And on the 15th of August of 2016, I started my blog. So even when it's holiday in Italy, and I was sure no one was going to care at all, but actually I saw the traffic slowly growing. I still don't know for what reasons. And in the 6 year of journey, I managed to meet some cool people like the president of HTC China. I interviewed someone from NVIDIA, from Facebook, the inventor of the Lion King, the now Horizon Fox, it is Charlie Fink. So I met lots of people. I've been invited to events. Thanks to that, I started a VR game, and I went to present it in Shenzhen to launch our game. I mean, it was lots of crazy things happening because of that sentence. So first of all, thank you for saying that, because it really changed a lot of my life. And I want you also to comment about this story.
Well, I'm humbled that I was used at the right time, and that you were receptive at the right moment, right? Because sometimes you can share things, and a communication, there is always two-way, right, Anthony? There is a recipient and there is a sender, right? I could have said anything and you could have not received it, right? But thankfully you were in a receiving position, and then not only that, right? It's kudos to you. You started executing towards it, right? Because I used to say to every entrepreneur, when you ask a mentor, or you ask 5 mentors, you get 20 opinions, right? Yeah. It's not about what the mentor says. It's about what you as an entrepreneur are filtering, what really touches your heart, what touches your soul, what touches your mind, right? So filter whatever mentors are saying, right? And then obviously, whatever you think that makes sense, execute towards it, and have a mentality of experimentation. And then I'm here to say I'm very glad, and I'm very excited to see that you started executing. I'm very excited that this journey brought you to many connections. And if I might be wrapping up things maybe with one next chapter, one next sentence for you, Anthony. I hope we will not be meeting only in 5-6 years. Please keep me posted of what you do. Now, before I start, do I have your attention?
Yes.
The best is yet to come.
Wow.
Okay.
Why do you say this?
Because I feel it. Because I feel it. It's not this is only a milestone for you, like so many things, right? You started early on in something that people had no vision at all, including me, right? So you were a visionary back then already, meaning you are a visionary today. Now it's the time where you have to double down and actually feel one thing. If you might eventually right now be in a situation where you're asking yourself, should I actually do it? I don't know what your situation you're going through, but I know that as an entrepreneur, often we ask ourselves,
Yeah.
I would like to share with you, yes, do it. This is the moment. You were an entrepreneur. You are an entrepreneur. You started early on. Now it's the time to do it, Anthony, right? And dear audience, it's the time to do it now. Let's co-create Web3 together. And if I can help in any capacity, please hook me up, and Anthony will share here the ways that you can bug me.
Yeah, so really thanks for the kind words. I know that you have to leave, but I just finished with one question. Do you have anything else, whatever, you're free to promote, to advise, whatever, to say to my readers and viewers now, you are free to do that.
Well, as I mentioned, if you want to know more about the metaverse, check out the book. It's available everywhere in the United States, or obviously or on Amazon, right? If you want to take a course, it's not just a course; it's a course that comes with a focused community of metaverse peers, and with a certificate and an NFTs that we add, right? It's almameta.xyz. If you want to read more articles, go on Forbes, look up Tommaso Di Bartolo. Sounds like a red wine, but it's not.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Tommaso Di Bartolo, really thanks for everything. Maybe these words have inspired someone else to create something cool in their life. So thanks really for your time in speaking with us, and have a great day, everyone that watching this video. Bye bye.
Bye, Anthony. Thank you.